Joining me now is the RMT Union Senior Assistant General Secretary, Ed Dempsey. Thank you for joining us this evening, Mr. Dempsey. Can I just ask, there are many people working from home. Around about 1 in 5 trains are running and there's no mad rush for the buses. How's the strike going?
No, the strike's going very well. Thanks for having me on. The strike's going very well. It's been very well supported by our members. They're mounting the picket lines. And unless we get a settlement, the strikes are going to continue.
But maybe not as much disruption as you expected or maybe even hoped?
Well, in the run-up to this, they were talking about power stations shutting down. On the run-up to a dispute, it's always presented in the media that strike action is going to cause Armageddon. And then once we take action, the rhetoric changes and you try to persuade everyone the strikes are having no effect. But what you never seem to report in the media is the mass profiteering in our industries and the theft of our public money and the reasons behind why workers in the railway and other industries are being told they've got to tighten their belts.
And there are workers in many other industries who are suffering because of the strikes. When you see businesses losing money, workers maybe on 0-hour contracts who aren't able to work, patients not being able to meet hospital appointments, do you feel bad?
I'll tell you what I feel bad about. What I think is a national disgrace in this country is people having to go to work and go to food banks, people not being able to afford a living, people being subsidised with benefits because wages are too low, and a government that is trying to make that worse. Now, we saw what happened with P&O when a ruthless employer has got the law on its side. And this government wants to make it worse. It wants to suppress people from achieving better pay rises. That's what I feel bad about. Everybody in this country is hurting, and everybody in this country deserves a pay rise. We're prepared to fight for it, and we're prepared to fight for it with people in other industries. I've just seen the news about BA. I'll be picking the phone up to people in Unite in the morning. I know the postal workers are getting ready to strike. The telecoms workers are getting ready. And that's what I want to see. I want to see a wave of trade unions standing up for working class people in this country so that British workers can get a pay rise.
Well, let me just say at this point that we did ask the government to come on, but they said a minister wasn't available to speak to us this evening. But for the reasons that you said, that times are difficult, the current crisis and wages not being able to keep up with inflation, does that mean strikes will have to come to an end at some point because your members don't get paid for strike days? So when times are so difficult, this must be a real struggle for them.
It is a real struggle for them, but look, this isn't the current crisis. Wages have been falling for 30 years in this country. Wages have not kept up with inflation for 30 years, and at the same time, corporate profits have really not exceeded inflation. There has been a massive transfer of wealth from working class people to people at the top, and a huge transfer of public wealth through our public services to private profits, and that has got to stop. The economy is broken. We've got a government out of ideas. Their way of dealing with the cost of living crisis is to try and shut down the trade unions. Now, I don't think that's on. I think people in this country deserve better. We've worked hard to keep this country going through a health emergency, and it's about time wages went up so people could meet the cost of living, and it's about time we started to address the inequalities in this society.
Even if London and the country grounds to a halt?
Yes, even if London grinds to a halt. Now, Londoners will know in this city it's hard to live on wages that are paid. There's a housing crisis. There's 90,000 people on the social housing waiting list. We've had our council housing stolen. We've had our health system privatised. We've had our education system commercialised. It's about time we had a set of wages and conditions for people in this country that they could live on, a health service that looks after us when we're sick, and for us to be able to retire in dignity. And we're prepared to fight for that.
Mr. Ed Dempsey, can I thank you for your time to speak to us this evening? Many thanks.
You're welcome.